There we go. Okay, guys. Well, nice to meet you all. We are Simon and Oscar from LettUs Grow, and we're here today to talk to you a little bit about LettUs Grow, our company, what we do, and hopefully offer some kind of insights from our kind of experience the last few years in the vertical farming industry as to what the opportunities are for vertical farming at different scales, and hopefully get some useful tips to you guys to help you get going in your own projects and avoid some of the kind of common pitfalls. So yeah, we'll get going. So firstly, I guess we'll just introduce ourselves. So my name's Oscar. I'm business development specialist here at LettUs Grow. I joined the company about 6 months ago, and I joined with about 7 years experience in the vertical farming industry. So my background's in commercial vertical farming. I've experienced growing microgreens, baby leaf and herbs, and selling those products to a range of different customer groups. So yeah, I'm now at LettUs Grow, and I'm bringing in my kind of practical knowledge in-house, and working with the business development team to help our customers make the right product choices, and hopefully set up lots of exciting, sustainable businesses. So yeah, Simon, do you want to give a quick intro?
Yeah, hi everyone. So my name's Simon. I've been working with LettUs Grow for over 2 years now. I don't quite have the same wealth of detail kind of growing and operations as Oscar does, but I come from a background where I've previously built another business. I've obviously thought that vertical farming and controlled environment agriculture is just part of the way in which we sustainably feed ourselves in the future. So it's kind of it's very easy to engage in a company that's driven and motivated and has the kind of right ethical values. Over the last 2 years, we've kind of built off the back of probably 3 years of R&D, and now we're kind of into the more kind of commercial phase of the company where we're starting to utilize the tech and bring it out into market, into a range of different products that we'll probably touch on in a bit. But it's obviously a very exciting time for the company as we can take all that knowledge, the in-house R&D, put it into products that can bring value to people's lives and fundamentally grow fresh produce and food. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Cool. So just a quick overview of what we're going to touch on today. We'll just expand a little bit on that introduction to LettUs Grow. Have a quick look at what is aeroponics, why aeroponics over hydroponics, some of the farms we've delivered to date. We'll have a little bit of a closer look at Drop and Grow, which is our latest container farm product line. It's a farm in a box, turnkey solution for container farming, and we've got a case study to explore there. We can also then look at kind of where next for LettUs Grow and kind of vertical farming in general, and then we're going to look at a brief snapshot look at some of the business cases for new vertical farms, as well as then just sharing some of those tips for new entrants. So that's a kind of brief overview. Yeah, let's get into it. So who are LettUs Grow? We are an indoor farming technology company. We develop unique technologies for greenhouses and vertical farms, specializing in advanced aeroponics and farm management platforms. And yeah, we're kind of at the forefront there, pushing the boundaries of controlled environment agriculture. The company was set up in 2015 by our 3 co-founders, all Bristol University graduates, and we've now grown to just about 30 or so employees, and we cover a range of specialist subjects from plant science, growing, engineering, software, and business development. So yeah, come quite a long way in the last few years. And as Simon says, we've kind of moved from a phase quite recently from engineering R&D, and taking what we've learned there and started to commercialize our IP into products which we're now putting out to market. So I guess good place to start to understand our company a little bit more is to look at our mission statement. Let's just move this so I can actually read it. Our mission statement, yeah, our mission is to reduce waste and carbon footprint of fresh produce by empowering anyone, anywhere to grow delicious food near the point of consumption. So that's kind of the core of what we do. and what we're thinking about whenever we're developing new products and services. So why aeroponics? Just got a little video here to play while I'm talking. So what is aeroponics, rather, sorry. So aeroponics is a nutrient delivery system, an irrigation system, and the premise is based around nutrient delivered in a mist. So where hydroponics, that nutrient is delivered in water, we're turning that water into a nutrient dense mist and delivering it direct to the roots. And where our solution differs from traditional aeroponics, which uses high pressure nozzles to create that mist, we're using a technology called ultrasonics, and we're essentially using a piece of equipment to vibrate the water and turn it into a mist. And there's some key benefits that we see around aeroponics over hydroponics, and it's creating a really oxygen-rich root zone, which helps the delivery of nutrients to the plants, creates a really healthy root network, and can really kind of increase those yields in the early days of the plants. And yeah, go on to the next slide. So yeah, a bit more about why aeroponics. As I touched on just then, we've seen up to 100% increase in growth rates. So this is us doing comparative trials with hydroponic ebb and floods irrigation techniques across a range of microgreen products. We can use less water than hydroponics. And what we've seen when we've translated this into our business model using a farm economic model is that we can get up to 3 times increase on the return on investment for vertical farms at certain scales. Operationally, by creating this really oxygen-rich root zone, we're also reducing the susceptibility of disease. That's also improved by the fact that the growing media is less, it retains less moisture, gets less damp, so we see reduced algal load and also kind of loading from other bacteria and kind of funguses. So we're creating a healthier root zone, but also a kind of a healthier microclimate when it comes to the crop level. So to date, to kind of generate this insight and this data, we've collaborated with a range of kind of leading UK institutions, and we've worked with them to kind of verify those performance metrics, but also to start to develop crop specific IP. So that's quite exciting. Taking a look at some of our first farms. So to date, we've delivered 8 projects across the UK. 5 of those are commercial projects. 3 are more focused on R&D. Some of those projects have been in tandem with some of the largest UK salad producers, which is really exciting. Also, we're working with other vertical farming companies to look at the traditional crops of, the leafy greens, but also looking into other crop areas such as tomatoes and even tree whips. So over the next sort of 6 months or so, we're looking to develop and deliver another 6 drop and grow products. And next year, we hope to have the capacity to increase that output to about 16 units, delivering across the UK. I guess I can talk you through the pictures we've got here. So at the top there, we've got one of our drop and grow containers. This is one that we're doing custom bespoke for a bioscience company who are looking at growing a range of tropical plants. So that's one we've got in the yard at the moment. Down at the bottom right there, we've got a photo of some of our aeroponic grow beds in a greenhouse up at Harper Adams University. So there we've been doing side-by-side comparison trials between hydroponics and aeroponics to see how the 2 irrigation methods compare within a commercial glasshouse setting. I'm not sure where that third picture is.
The last one's Spark York. So this was a collaborative project between a container park called Spark York and the University of York. So they're looking at doing the plant science research, but also research into the kind of business cases as well. It may also be worth noting kind of 2 more local projects to yourselves. So We're in the middle of delivering a project to Welcome to Our Woods, which is a community-based project in the Welsh Valleys, and also Cultivate, again, a community project in Newtown, which has been fully delivered.
So yeah, leading on from that, I guess it'd be a good place to introduce Drop and Grow, which, as I mentioned before, is our container-based product offering. So what we've done is we've taken our aeroponic technology, as well as our Ostara software management system, and put that into a container for easy deployability, and yeah, an all-round kind of complete package. And the aim with Drop and Grow is to have a product that's turnkey. We can deliver it to site. We can get it hooked up to mains electric, to water, and to water waste, and you're pretty much ready to go there. Within the Ostara management system, we've got all of our what we call crop recipes. So for a range of different crops, from baby leaf, microgreens, herbs, we've developed a number of recipes here at our R&D facility in Bristol, which we've pre-programmed into the system so that growers can get growing straight away. And as they get more confident, they can then develop their own recipes and hone them to meet the specific needs of their users as well. So just got a quick video here around one of our latest Drop and Grow customers. This is a container that we delivered to UWE a few months back. So it's the University of West of England. And yeah, we'll have a look at the video now, catch a bit more.
There's no, we're not hearing any audio from this. Should there be audio?
Yeah, I'm getting audio. Let me see if I can. Speaker.
I think you might just have to read the subtitles on this one. There is some audio and background music, but you should be able to read the kind of general context in the subtitles.
Are you guys getting the subtitles?
Yeah, we're seeing everything, or at least I am anyway. But,
Let's skip on now. Okay, guys, sorry, we can skip on now as you haven't got any audio. Sorry about that. We can share that video after so you can get the audio there, but hopefully that gives you a bit of an idea about our drop and grow product. You can see there as an example of, yeah, it's the first to be delivered to a UK university, so that's quite exciting. Do you want to touch a bit more about that project, give a bit more context to what Jamie's trying to do there?
Yeah, I guess so. Jamie's kind of a mature student from the university, but he's also launching this as his own individual business, so it's a standalone business. He has a certain level of support from the university, so he's been given access to this site. He also has kind of enterprise team behind him, but what he's looking to do is build out a case for offsetting kind of particularly excessive parts of supply chains that do lots of other kind of imports. So he's using this kind of really as a pilot in the UK, but then he wants to deploy it at different sites kind of around the UK and also within Europe. So this is kind of a good like test case for him.
There we go. Okay, so yeah, so that's drop and grow. That's the main product that we've put all of our aeroponic technology and Astara software technology into, and are going to be delivering across this year and into early next year. I guess this infographic just gives a bit more of a broader idea and roadmap to help us explain where as a company we see ourselves going in the next few years and how that aligns with the wider industry in general. So this is us up in the top left at the moment. We've got our novel crop development team working on recipes based on our aeroponic technology. We're testing that with partners in plant research, and we're capturing all that data for analysis and to help us develop products going forward. We've also got a few container farms out there, our drop and grow products starting to go out there, and yeah, starting to kind of consolidate all of that knowledge and looking to plan looking forward. So next year we are going to continue with the drop and grow product line to continue to get that out there with different partners. We're also going to be developing, well, it's kind of we've already developed, but we're going to be installing our new atomizers, the piece of equipment that generates this aeroponic mist, and that's kind of core to our IP as a company. So those products will be coming online, which is really exciting. We're going to be focusing more on our research in glass houses alongside the drop and grow products, and also continue to develop the Astara software system and update that as we develop it. And yeah, going forward, further into the future, we're going to be looking at the larger indoor vertical farming systems, so what we call advanced aeroponics, and that's really fitting this technology that we've developed into the existing and future large-scale automated vertical farms that we see coming online. Also going to be starting to look at some of the different crops. So we've already started research with tomato growers, for example, and we'd also be liking to look at integrating with renewable energies, co-locating systems, that sort of thing. And yeah, 2025 is a case of scaling all of that up, looking at even more crops, looking at again at the kind of the wider glasshouse industry, and yeah, really consolidating that knowledge and moving forward with a range of products and solutions. Apologies if you can hear the angle grind in the background. So I have sat above the workshop at the moment. So do let me know if you can't hear anything, and I can repeat it. So I guess this is just a fairly nice infographic to kind of lay out where we see the opportunities and business cases for new vertical farmers. So on the left-hand side, we've kind of identified different persona types. So we've got urban entrepreneurs, horticultural growers, estate owners, diversifying farmers and dairy farmers up there in that top corner there. We've got the types of farmer. So for this drop and grow top band, we've got the niche crops, high value markets, lower volume, higher margin crops. And that really fits in with our drop and grow product line. these smaller scale vertical farms, which alongside we can deliver the farm economic modelling, as well as a number of other services. And as we look at larger scales, a lot of that technology translates into another service that we offer, which is the design and build service, and that's more focused on the larger scale vertical farms, but also bespoke research chambers, that sort of thing. And these kind of products and services come into play when we start looking at the kind of wider commodity crops, kind of lower value baby leaf, that sort of thing, to service customers like supermarkets. Yeah, and generally across the board there, the size of the farm is increasing as we go down. Anything else to add on that one, or?
Not really. I guess it's, for me, the relationship between the size of the farm and selecting the right sorts of crops to grow. So for those of you who've been growing already, you're probably well aware that choosing kind of higher value niche crops like the microgreens for us seems to make the most sense at the smaller scale. And obviously, as you scale up those installations, you gain some economies of scale, gain some efficiency through automation. That's what starts to unlock kind of the broader mass market commodity crops and the sorts that you might see more in kind of small or large retailers.
Yeah, so I guess the next section is really just about us kind of taking those insights that we've touched on, and the kind of knowledge we've gained from our journey at looking at some of the tips that we'd suggest to newcomers to vertical farming. And as Simon said, I'm sure some of you on this group have started growing yourselves and have had a go. So hopefully after we've had a chance to go through these, there'll be a chance for some questions at the end where we can maybe delve into some more kind of specific feedback and advice if that's helpful. So what I've done here really is lay out what I think are the kind of 4 key tips that I'd recommend to people entering this market. And this is based on what we've learned here at LettUs Grow, but also my kind of previous experience running vertical farms in the UK. So the first of those is to understand your local market. Secondly, keep the product simple in the first instance. Don't try and do too much. Engage and educate the audience. Branding is really important, how you present the product. And lastly, when you kind of figured all those things out, it's really important to make a model. It's maybe the less exciting part of starting a journey to vertical farming, but it's really key to understanding how your business is going to work. Vitally important. So we'll just have a look at some of these in a bit more detail. So understanding local market. Last year we did a customer attitudes survey. I think that was in partnership with one of the Welsh groups.
Yeah, it was the special interest group.
Yes.
So they paid for the research originally. These are some of the insights they presented back to us.
So what we can see is that some of the key insights I've picked up from this report is that 69% of the UK, of people interviewed would try CEA produce, so controlled environment agriculture produce. So people are keen, they're willing to give it a go. But in terms of what they value, we look at the primary drivers to purchasing decisions down below. It's about taste and freshness that comes above price, but price is still really important. Some of the other messages that were kind of and key themes that were picked up on were nutrition. I think that's one that's certainly growing and becoming more important to consumers, as well as this idea about buying local and supporting local producers. So yeah, those are some of the key themes that were kind of highlighted as purchasing key factors behind purchasing decisions. I guess that's mirrored in this quote here that comments on the fact that customers are prioritizing environmentally responsible, being environmentally responsible whilst trying to support local businesses. So that's quite important, and those themes translate over when we start thinking about branding. So I guess that's what the customers are valuing, but in terms of what should you kind of choose, what products fit the local market, and in the context of vertical farming, we're still looking at these products here. If you look at the left hand side of the screen, that we've highlighted, the microgreens and shoots, culinary herbs and leafy greens. These are the kind of the key crops at the moment that make the most economic sense when we're thinking about what products can we use to service that demand for local, healthy, sustainable produce. So you'll see there's lots of talk, if you follow kind of vertical farming news, about strawberries and vine crops, and even beyond that, looking at other kind of legumes, and even things like nuts and stuff like that. And obviously that's all on the horizon. But I think in terms of setting up a business, it's key to focus on the ones that we know there's a proven market for, and the ones that are going to deliver you most, a quickest return on investment in relation to kind of scale and scalability. So yeah, then on the right hand side, we've got another just infographic just to kind of break out how you might categorize those markets. So you've got a high value market, which just maybe represents 5%, say here in the UK, and that's the microgreens and shoots, and that's looking at markets which are direct to customers, so thinking about things like subscription models for servicing your local community, getting into restaurants, small retail, and also kind of local farm shops. But that's really where you're going to get most bang for your buck. And there's a slightly bigger market below that, which is the same sorts of products, probably more leaning towards the leafy greens and culinary herbs, but targeting kind of food service, wholesale and retail segments. And yeah, slightly you take a slight hit on the margin, but then you're getting the volume. You see there the market share is much larger. And beyond that, then you're starting to look at the more of the commodity scale of operation, where you'd be servicing much larger institutions and channels, and starting to compete with imported produce on a much larger scale. Just lastly, again, there in terms of how that translates into farm size, as we go down that list, the scale of the farming operation is increasing. So we're looking at larger scale, more automation, and kind of more industrial processes, whereas we can get away with the more kind of manual processes and smaller operations if we're targeting those higher value markets. So once you've kind of identified those markets that you want to serve and kind of identified where you're going to target first, the next kind of bit of advice that I would give is to kind of keep the product range fairly simple. It can be quite tempting to grow all sorts of different things, and it's doable, but it's about working out what's profitable and what's going to present an easy business model to operate. And there's two kind of roads you can go down here. It's going down the route of a monocrop, which we've seen examples of in the UK, where you choose one crop and you really try and you nail that crop, and you start specializing there, and you kind of hone out a niche for yourself. Or you can do mixes. I suggest keeping the mixes limited, 10 to 12 products. This works really well for microgreens, because you can have a kind of a retail mix where the bed of pea shoots, and then you change 2 or 3 micros to create different products that are offering different nutrient profiles or different flavor profiles. But essentially you're growing the same mix week in, week out. And yeah, again, you can sell individual products to restaurants, or as part of kind of community products on subscription basis as well. But it's kind of trying to limit the amount of product lines that you grow, but using those in different formats to create more kind of physical products, if you see what I mean. And yeah, targeting the crops that grow really well, and not getting too kind of bogged down in those random ones you get asked to grow, which sound really exciting, taste really exciting, but are really difficult to grow. The branding, I think here the point is that it's key to educate and engage based on those kind of insights that we saw previously in the when we were looking at the kind of the market and what people value. So what sells when it comes to branding? And I think one of the key themes that came out of this was that vertical farming is quite new to people, and so there are questions that people will want to ask around it, but what you want to put forward is the benefits of vertical farming as opposed to the method and how it's grown. So getting across that you're using less chemicals, or there's higher vitamins and minerals in the products, or it's grown locally, is more important than, say, messaging around it being grown without soil or grown under LEDs, because that message is less important and sometimes more confusing. What people really want to know is what are the benefits of the product they're buying. And I've just put some punnets here. These you might recognize are from the guys over at Growing Underground. They've recently gone through a fairly major rebrand across their product line, which I think looks fantastic. But you can see it's kind of eye-catching, it's very visual, and some of the things they're picking up on their website kind of are aligned with the themes that I was discussing just then. They're focusing on the nutritional benefit of the crops, the fact that it's pesticide-free, carbon neutral, and that they use 100% renewable energy. So these are kind of the key themes they're pushing across their product range, and yeah, I think they look pretty fantastic. So once you've kind of identified that market, and decided what you're going to sell, kind of come up with the brand messaging, it's time to start doing the modeling. And this is something that we've done in-house. We've got our own farm economic models that we can put together based on whether a drop and grow product or whether it's a design and build. And the key thing here is to really start to understand what is the market size, how much can I charge for my services and my products, and then what are my costs, how do those costs break down. So what I did here is using our farm economic model, and using a drop and grow as an example of a production system, I inputted some data around growing a mixed microgreen product. So something that was about 60% peas, and then with a mix of some sunflower shoots and broccoli, a bit of mustard and a bit of coriander to create a mixed microgreen product. And what it's done, the model's done, is kind of spat out some of the key overhead costs. So you can see there's some big ones that kind of stand out. Labor is a big cost. Here I'd inputted that we're paying a living wage, so about £10 an hour. And with our system, we're looking at about 20 to 30 hours direct labor a month working the system. Another big one is the energy. Obviously, that's accounted for by the lighting and the irrigation, and the climate control of the growing environment. Facility rent, I sort of targeted about £1,000 a month as a kind of finger in the air, but also a kind of educated guess based on what I found for kind of small commercial sites. And a large chunk here is consumables, so direct cost of sales. So these are things like the punnets, the matting, the seeds, the branded packaging, and I've put in some costs that would kind of mirror, that reflect kind of packaging options like you saw previously with the Growing Underground example. So a nice rPET punnet, so recyclable plastic punnet with a cardboard sleeve that would be bespoke made to your with your branding and marketing on it. So yeah, you can see the value of doing the modeling is you can start to kind of break out where are your costs and work out, okay, how can I save on these? Is there somewhere I can get rent free by collaborating with an existing space that maybe wants somebody to sit there and use it in a kind of meantime way, or offer some sort of community value? How can I bring down my consumable costs? Where do I get my seeds from? Where do I get my packaging? Maybe if I buy in bulk, I can bring that price down. Labor, can you supplement labor with kind of volunteering and training opportunities? where actually you can start to even charge for some of those services as well, so you can get some money back there. And empower, understanding from your modeling how you can affect your kind of power requirements based on the lighting regimes or the irrigation regimes. Turning your lights off for an hour a day could save you a significant amount of money, so that can start to kind of lead maybe a bit of the R&D that you're doing on the side, and where the aims are, how can we bring down the costs. So yeah, making a model is really important. Aside from the cost, obviously you're looking at what can you charge for the product, as well as a host of other important business decisions you're going to have to make. And here I've included things like in the business overheads, I've included £30 a month for internet, maybe some accountancy software, bit of insurance. Delivery cost there is based on the lease hire agreement for an electric vehicle, electric van. So yeah, you can start to put these costs in and kind of figure out, is it going to work? What's going to be my return on investment? And what can I do to make this model look better? So yeah, and that's something that we do here with all of our products and with all of our customers. So that really sums up the key insights that I've got. I don't know, Simon, is there any last pearls of wisdom you'd like to impart before we go over to kind of questions?
I think I'd just add, in terms of the modelling, obviously on our end, there's a number of the inputs into the farms that we know. We kind of understand the energy, we can understand the consumables. The crux will always be how much you can sell the produce for. If you are obviously already growing, you may have that understanding within the market. And this step in terms of modeling, validating a business case is always going to be kind of key for scaling up, if that is something you desire, and investors or the bank or whoever it may be to give you money to scale up is going to want to see and understand that business case. So I think being in a position where you're already growing, you can use the inputs from other systems to understand what that business model looks like at different scales, and raising finances is kind of a key part there of the expansion of any business.
So yeah, I mean, that sums up the first part of our presentation. So if anybody has any questions about specific projects they have in mind, and would like to go through any of that economic modeling with me, or talk about the kind of marketing, the branding, and any other insights we can offer, just please feel free to drop me an email. I've put my email there for you. So yeah, I guess that we can now move on to if anybody's got any questions now they'd like to ask.
Well, thank you so much, Oscar and Simon. That's really, really interesting. I think there's a lot of insights there for that will be really, really useful resource in the future, and will really help people make a success of starting up vertical farming work. I was particularly impressed with this sort of aeroponics technology we're talking about, and this sort of atomizers and ultrasonic technology, which brings down the energy costs required with sort of high pressure aeroponics nozzles that have been a barrier in the past. And again, when you grow with aeroponics, it usually reduces the problems with algae and root rot and other things like that, because the roots don't become anoxic. And I'm really interested in that. That's something that I think is really key innovation. So yeah, thanks again so much. That was fantastic stuff. So I'll start off with a question, if that's okay. If I'm sort of wearing an investor's hat on, as it were, if I'm looking at going into vertical farming, I can see a few things that might put me off going for a sort of a drop and grow solution. That is kind of, or questions that might sort of make me wonder about the return on investment. So it's a high return on investment. There's no sort of hiding that, I suppose, in that I would have to spend tens or maybe hundreds of thousands of pounds for this technology. and I would have to sell a lot of lettuce to make that money back. And there's probably a lot of potential, if I'm thinking about the future of this industry. There's a lot of new sort of tech startups and new ideas coming into vertical farming. There's a lot of potential for obsolescence in this kind of sector. So I would be worried by that. So I was just wondering how you would reassure me that this is the stage that I should go for. This is the time to buy one of these drop and grow solutions.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's going to be obsolescence within certain subcomponents of the system as a whole. I guess what we can do in terms of modeling is, we understand that if we use the LED lights for 14 hours a day, how many years will they last? And, then we can actually forecast kind of 7 years in when we know actually some of the LEDs are going to need to be retrofitted. So with a level of knowledge of the subcomponents, we can have an understanding of what I'd call the kind of service schedule. When do things need to be serviced, when do things need to be replaced, and build that into kind of a long-term business model. I guess in terms of deciding the right time to invest, I think it's often going to come down to kind of personal desire and kind of tolerance to risk. Essentially, some people like to be early. They want to gain that earlier market advantage in wherever it is they live or wherever they operate. Other people want to see kind of a greater level of social proof and wait for others to be doing it. So I guess the people that we're starting to work with, they are the early adopters. They want to take that risk and see a kind of market or competitive benefit. But we recognize that that's not necessarily how everyone kind of views their tolerance to risk and that level of investment. So I think it's quite a personal point there.
Oh, very interesting. I mean, if I was in your position, I'd probably also want to make a case that the prices of equipment and materials is only going to increase. At the moment, it's going through the roof with all the supply chain problems. And here you are offering a solution that will probably only get more expensive in the future. So as well as obsolescence, that's going to be balanced out against the fact that something like this could cost millions in the future. It's all very, very useful sort of discussion here. I've got a question from John, so I'm going to ask him to go ahead and ask that.
Probably just a couple of questions on inputs and outputs. I think Luke sort of hinted at the inputs issue potentially, supply chains. Are you seeing any issues with supply chain for the kind of nutrient feeds or media that you're using, or even your fundamental components? And then on the sort of output side of things, what waste does your drop and grow system produce in sort of solids? And also, I guess you have to do a liquid change at some point. A farmer has to be very careful what they put into the rivers and outflow of our land. What sort of issues are there likely to be when you pour a not completely nutrient drained water into the drain? Does that make sense? I'll shut up now.
No, that makes complete sense. I guess on the inputs, purely in the kind of procurement of the product, there are supply chain difficulties with things like silicon and computer components, but the actual inputs into the farm on a kind of operational basis, so we're talking about seeds, matting, nutrients, obviously water and electricity. We're not experiencing any challenges there. I guess what we do is we work with other third parties, so it's CN Seeds, Elsams, matting companies like Holland Bioproducts. We may in the future choose to supply those ourselves. That's not currently part of the LettUs Grow business model, but the reason we might want to do that in the future is if we can kind of collate those consumables and gain some economies of scale through procuring lots of them and pass those on, and also kind of integrate that into the software so there's an understanding of when those consumables are running out on your farm. It may make business sense for us to do it, but also operational sense to receive those services. So rather than storing lots of matting kind of in a separate space, could you have a kind of just-in-time service where we're delivering matting and seeds as and when they're about to run out kind of on your farm. So I guess that's maybe kind of where we would take inputs in the future and also kind of control that part of the supply chain. And then
assuming that just in time kind of recovers sometime soon. I think just in time, in particular, with the shortage of drivers and truckers, and might be a bit of an issue. But please go on.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what I'm saying is maybe it becomes part of our business model that we stock those consumables and deliver them out. That I guess would try and offset, any supply chain issues. And then on the outputs, obviously you've got kind of biomass in the roots. You've got the matting itself, and there's a very heavy move away from grow felt, which has recycled carpet, but it has carpet fibers within it. So that is a waste stream that needs to be disposed of. There's a strong move away from that to the organic ones like hemp and jute from Holland Bioproducts. Obviously, what you'd want to do there is ideally compost them on site, or it starts to get quite interesting if you cohabit your farm with something like an anaerobic digester. Can the waste from your farm be part of the feedstock into an anaerobic digester that's composting? And then on the kind of the water with the nutrients, obviously what you're doing within a closed loop water system is recirculating and redosing nutrients. So you've got the right amount for the plants. That should mean that you're not actually disposing of too much nutrients kind of directly, and you wouldn't want to be doing it into the ground at all. It should go into kind of the commercial waste, but that's water with small amounts of fertilizer in. But yeah, that should go down a commercial drain.
Thanks.
Yes.
Oh, very good. Great stuff. Good questions, John. I've got a next question from Harini here. Do you want to go ahead and ask something?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Harini. Thank you for the information today. I'm really actually, this is a little tangential to what the talk was about. It's still about hydroponics. So I'm really drawn to the idea of hydroponics as something that can work towards self-sustenance within home units and apartment spaces. So in that sense, I was wondering if you guys have explored anything related to that. I'm actually based in India, so this is something that I'm like looking to explore in the future. And related to that also, I was wondering if you guys tried growing mushrooms in the same space that there are other plants growing, because I mean mycelium is pretty invasive. So I was wondering how you tackle something like that in a situation like that.
Are you referring to kind of like the first part of your question? You're referring to like a small unit that you might have within your house or apartment that kind of sits on the countertop? Yeah.
Imagine like sort of a fully automated controlled unit that's kind of like a refrigerator size, like a double door refrigerator size. That I don't know if, I mean, I'm just imagining it could grow up to 50% of my produce, like at least 1 or 2 people's produce. But it's just a thought, yeah.
Yeah, I think my opinion here is that these farms gain efficiencies through economies of scale. And I think in the short term, I don't see it being something that LettUs Grow would personally be investing our time into. I think like if you think about permaculture or community supported agriculture, these things benefit from lots of people taking part and contributing together and therefore sharing that produce. I think the vertical farm could be seen as an extension of that, where you have individuals within the community helping themselves, but rather than it being on kind of like an apartment by apartment basis or a house by house base, it is part of the community. It's like a community asset that can be shared. So I'm not sure whether that scale really works at the moment. Then your second question around mushrooms. Yeah, absolutely. I think mushrooms are definitely one of the key kind of next crops to develop. So whilst they grow slightly different to leafy green fresh produce, mushrooms sequester oxygen like humans do. So what you would choose to do is have a controlled environment. That could be in a container. So a controlled environment container, and keep that space very sterile, have your racking set up, understand what temperature and humidity requirement that particular mushroom needs. But that would work with relative ease. I think like the principles are the same. It's controlled environment agriculture, and it's a contained space that you can keep nice and sterile, because if you don't, mushrooms they won't grow well at all.
Actually, my question was, how would if you were to grow mushrooms and I guess other plants in the same controlled unit, have you had any experiments related to that? I mean, because the interactions with the mycelium is pretty invasive. So
I don't think you choose to do that. I think the environmental conditions would be too different. What you would probably do better is having two separate controlled environment containers. So obviously plants are taking in CO2 and giving off oxygen, and actually piping that waste oxygen into your mushroom container, where the mushrooms are therefore sequestering and breathing that in essentially. So you'd want to link them in two separate spaces, but there could be some symbiotic benefits from doing that.
That's really cool. Yeah, thank you.
Oh, very good. I'm really enjoying these answers, and it's really positive discussion. I'm going to have to go off to another meeting now, but if are there any other questions? I think if there are not, I'll wrap the session up and just say a really big thanks again to Oscar and Simon. And I'm really keen to keep up this discourse about sort of understanding more about your sort of pioneering new methods in aeroponics. And it's really good stuff that you're doing, and I think I'm certainly really keen to learn more. There's a lot of things in your presentation that I was thinking, yeah, it'd be really good to hear a bit more about how some of these insights were quite interesting, and some of them were possibly different to what I was expecting. So it's a really good sort of discourse to be carrying on at some point. So thank you to both of you. It was really interesting, and best of luck with your, I know you're doing some really good work with social farms and gardens and other partners at the moment in Wales and in other places. So keep up that good work, and thank you so much.
Thank you. I guess just maybe one final closing note from us. I think, if anyone wants to get a copy of Oscar's farm economic model, drop him an email and we can share that. And likewise, we're based in Bristol, so the opportunity to organise a group visit and kind of show people around firsthand, that's something that we can arrange afterwards.
Yes, really keen to look into that. That'll be excuse me, that'll be really good. So no, thank you so much.
Thank you.
No worries. Thanks, guys.
Good stuff. Well, thanks you again, and all the best.
Yeah,
cheers.
See you soon.
Bye-bye.